Thank you very much. I'm Michael Ferris. We've got 40 minutes today. I'm going to try to leave some time at the end for an Ask Me Anything, but we have the chat box as well. So feel free. I'll try to monitor the chat box, and as appropriate, I'll try to interact with you during this time, but I'll also try to hold some time there at the end for it as well. So just a little bit about myself. I'm Michael Ferris. I'm 56. I live in Houston, Texas. I was born in Pittsburgh. And I want to talk about my journey. I'm a lifelong stutterer, and I'm still a person who stutters. I stuttered severely for 45 years, from the age of 5 until the age of 50. So I've been fluent, if you call it that. I can speak without stuttering for the past 6 years. So we're going to talk about my life, my journey as a lifelong severe stutterer, how I was able to improve my fluency, stop stuttering, and now I'm an advocate. So as a person who stutters, I empathize, I understand, I appreciate, and I really love to support people who stutter in all of the disciplines. Dr. McGuire talks about the multidisciplinary approach, and everyone has their own path, and I'm going to share my path, and I hope that it's helpful for some of you all. I'm a neuroplastician, and if you don't know what that is, hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll know what that is, and we'll circle back on that. I'm the president and founder of Stuttermind, Inc., which is a 501c4 non-for-profit organization, and I'm the creator of StutterMind.com, where I provide speech coaching globally online. So I help people who stutter become fluent. And I recently wrote a book, and that's out. It's called Stop Stuttering, how to rewire your brain for fluent speech, the Stuttermind Neuroscience Protocol. So the book will go into more detail. I won't go into it here too deep about the actual steps in the process, but I documented the protocol that I use to help share as a part of the multidisciplinary approach. Hard word for you to say. Approaches if people would like to understand that better. Okay, so I want to raise some awareness today. Let's move on a little bit here. I can click. So a little bit about me and my story. I was just talking with my parents. They're trying to join. They're 80 and 81 technology. Their computer's old. I'm not sure if they're online or not, but if they are, shout out to mom and dad. My mom is a person who stutters, and I have 3 nephews that stutter, all boys, and my great aunt is a severe stutterer as well. And then I picked that up. I started stuttering when I was about 5. I knocked out my front teeth riding a bike, and I began to speak with a lisp. So the school noticed that, sent me to speech therapy, brought attention to my speech and speaking correctly, and I started stuttering. And I stuttered for 45 years. Like most people, very difficult, challenging life to be a person. I was really hard on myself. I really applaud, and I wish I would have understood better the whole concept of acceptance. I never did. I just hid and beat myself up and stressed out. My mind space, always thinking of words, always thinking of my next conversation. Really, really tough. But I got through it, obviously, right? And I was a bit unusual that I still, I put myself out there. I coached my son's sports teams, and my job as a speaker. I worked for some of the largest companies in the world. I worked for BP and Shell and DHL and Waste Management as an executive there. I stuttered through all of it. I stuttered in all my meetings, saying my name, present. It was just really stressful. Interviews. I had an interview last week. It was a video interview, 3 minutes, answer the question. I'm like, I had that before, and obviously I wasn't able to answer the questions in 3 minutes, and I didn't get that job either. But anyhow, that was my life. It impacted me socially, my education, my relationships. It shaped my personality as a shy person, as an invert, and kind of shaped who I am. Like others, I'm now proud of who I am. And it's a journey that makes me unique, and we're all unique. So I'm proud of my journey, but it was a tough one for sure. I did return to speech therapy when I went back to work. My boss pulled me in and said, Michael, got to do something about your speech. It's going to impact your career. I was 24, so I'm back to speech therapy, and I did not improve. So it impacted the quality of my life. What I realized, though, like many, my stuttering was situational. So I stuttered probably 80-90% of the time. I could speak to myself if no one's around, read a book if no one's around, if the cat's around, I was fine with that. Any authority figure, anyone new, talking to my father, calling to order pizza, stuttered all through all of it. And a lot of traumatic experiences, especially in high school and in college, where being socially accepted, it's so important. Stuttering in front of class, I put up a picture of a speaker I had to introduce while at college. 300 people in the room, and he's standing there. I couldn't say his name. So just so I've been there, and it was very challenging for me. But that's where I was, and like to kind of move forward and kind of speak to where I am now. But I was up, I always wondered, I can speak. It's not physical for me, but then sometimes I can't speak at all. My tongue and my lips and my throat close and repeat, and like, what's going on? I was always looking for why and answers, and looking and looking. And about 6 years ago, I found an avenue, and it helped me, and I'll share that with you here today. Some perspective. So I just wrote a book, so I did a lot of homework, and I found a lot of things interesting I didn't know about. I'll share them quickly. You probably all know this, because we all search the internet and do our own research. 1% of the population stutters. I was shocked with that, because I met very few people who stutter. But it's great to know that we're not alone. So I love these forums. I love meeting our community. It's fantastic. I see my father has just joined. Thank you, Dad, for joining, and Mom Sarah as well. I appreciate it. So the family history of stuttering. About half the people who stutter have a family history like I do. Half don't, and they're just the first person in their family who stutters. And there's other reasons why people stutter. We heard from people just a few minutes ago, people who have injuries, brain injuries, medical. There's all sorts of reasons. But the two big buckets are people who are hereditary or they're not, and I fall into that camp of hereditary. I found it interesting that if your father stutters, 9% of the daughters, 22% of the sons will stutter. If your mom stutters, like my mom who has a slight stutter, 17% of daughters and 36% of the sons. That's me. And twins, which is really interesting. Fraternal twins, 30% will stutter, and identical twins, it's 75%. One of my nephews who stutters is a fraternal twin, and his mom doesn't, though, but it's in my family. And most people who stutter as a young kid will outgrow it, but still favors males. But typically by the age of 12, if you still stutter, you'll likely be a stutterer your whole life, like I am, and many of you are. And a 4 out of 5 are male, which is quite a bit. I coach people, and I find more women than that. But that's the stats. I've got it documented in the book if you want more references on that. I was amazed with the history of stuttering. Looking. There's no cure for stuttering, as we know. We've made very, very little progress in terms of solving. There's different avenues, and I'm grateful that we're exploring them, but there's very little progress. We've done more with cancer than we have with understanding our brain. Our brain is very complex. So we haven't solved it yet. And there's all different avenues. But history is quite bleak, frankly. When you go back in time, we've been stuttering since speech started. All languages, 1% of all populations, and we still, are unable to cure it. So that, it's an unremarkable history of solving what our problems are, and we still haven't solved it. Acceptance is a great message. It's the primary message. It's one that I didn't get growing up, so I missed that whole message. You hear it here at conferences, associations, podcasts, helping people cope and manage and be proud of themselves, accept themselves, claim their space. and it's great. Something I never did. Now, I never did, both parents, I didn't see that question or that data in my research when both parents. Really interesting, though, but I'm only quoting things that I found. That would be interesting. Great question. I don't have the answer. If someone else has the answer, feel free to put that in the so why we stutter, we haven't figured that out yet. You can't really solve something you don't fully understand exactly what's happened. Now, people with injuries and things like that, we do understand better. We know the part of the brain that is wired for stuttering. But we need to be open to new possibilities and new solutions. So I appreciate everyone's time to listen to my story and consider this as one of the possibilities to work with our stutters. For most of us, it's not physical. It feels physical when we block and repeat and push and there's no air and all that. But it's largely has to do with the intricate neural circuits in our brain. And that's why I was surprised, I could speak sometimes and sometimes I couldn't. It's situational stuttering. It's very, very real. In class, I couldn't speak, but I could stand up and say, the budget we did when we all spoke together. It's like, I know I can talk, but why can't I talk? So I was always looking for answers. Interesting views on stuttering. What I learned about, so I did get the Speak Easy device, to spent about $3,000 get the Speak Easy device maybe 8 years ago, and it was helpful. It helped my fluency for a couple of weeks, and then it got less helpful, and I don't wear it, and it didn't work. My brain kind of figured it out. You can't have one tool; your brain figures that out. But it's a highly complex activity, over 100 muscles to produce speech. And to produce fluent speech, fluent, call it, it's about 150 words per minute. So just imagine your brain has to send those motor signals to coordinate speech for about 100 muscles. Then your ear hears what you're saying and then tells your brain, go to the next sound. And if that auditory feedback loop's not working properly, I can't get to that next sound. I get stuck. I get locked on that first word, or so we know the auditory feedback loop is an element for some people who stutter. How we know that is if you manipulate the auditory feedback loop, the easy device, which is the choral effect, or the delayed auditory feedback is what it's called. It can impact our fluency. When I sang in a choir, that's manipulating or helping my feedback loop. I didn't stutter. If you play white noise at like 98 decibels, and you can't hear your voice, you don't stutter. People who are deaf don't stutter. They don't have an auditory feedback loop. So we know that there's, this is an interesting element of stuttering. We know that the auditory feedback loop can be one of the factors that impact our speech. Speech is very complex. Now, the paradigm shift, which I'm really excited. I'm excited about sharing my story, and if it helps other people, great. If people have their own avenues or acceptance, that's great too. So, but I want to share this. I don't think that the neuroplasticity area is yet fully exhausted. We have a lot more to learn and to explore in this space. And with this, I think there's an opportunity for a paradigm shift, which is changing the point of view of you can't become a person who speaks fluently to, well, actually, it's possible and there's hope, okay? And often, if you are in the, people have talked about these camps. I didn't realize there were necessarily camps, but if you're in one camp, you don't like the other camp, and we all need to come together. So we're all a part of one community, and accept people's ideas and ways to manage, cope, use tools, don't use tools, acceptance, work on brain neuroplasticity, wherever, people are working on medications. I mean, all these things are great. We need to look at all the possibilities. I put some quotes in there. Thomas Jefferson, there are no rules here. We're trying to accomplish something. So kind of thinking outside the box. And I did find some things that helped me, and I'll share those here Um, so, um, so Dr. Michael Martinich, he's a foremost neuroscience researcher, and in the 80s, kind of had a breakthrough. It was thought that the brain was fixed. You're born with a fixed number of neurons, and they could map different parts of the brain for speech and hearing and sensories and so forth. So, no areas associated with speech. And what he found is that that our brains are dynamic and it can act, and it's not fixed. In the year 2000, Eric Kandel won the Nobel Prize for demonstrating that synaptic plasticity works. And then, this was building off of, I guess, in 1949, Dr. Ronald Webb had the concept that, that he introduced, that our brains can change. So I read a book. It's a fantastic book if you've not read it. The Brain That Changes Itself by Dr. Norman Deutsch. He talked about brain neuroplasticity. It's phenomenal. And this is what opened up the doors for me and helped me with my path. And he explains, through a lot of different examples, how people have successfully rewired their brain. People who have a stroke, half their body is not working, or other sensory or other issues that are associated with the brain, and how they could rewire the brain and change the brain to overcome some of their challenges. So I thought, can we do that with speech? Hadn't heard that before. So I was able to take the principles of neuroplasticity being used for other brain challenges and apply it to my speech. And the principle of the concept really is that neurons that fire together wire together. And it's always changing. Every thought, every experience, neurons in your brain are creating those connections, and they establish our situational stuttering connection. We can change them, or we can reinforce them. It's a bit of a double-edged sword there. In the book, chapter 2, and I'll read just one quick bit. The chapter is called "Building Herself a Better Brain." A woman labeled retarded discovers how to heal herself. So he goes into the history of Barbara Aerosmith Young, who was retarded and was able to use brain neuroplasticity to solve her own challenges. She now has the Aerosmith School and program up in Canada, and she uses brain neuroplasticity to help other people. She's brilliant. She helps people overcome their learning disabilities using brain neuroplasticity. Brilliant, smart woman. Barbara wrote a book, The Woman Who Changed Her Brain, explained how she's a neuroplastician like me. She uses the science of rewiring the brain to overcome challenges. She writes, now it is undisputed that the brain is plastic, malleable, capable of change. This is the biggest discovery about the brain in the past 400 years. It's really, really exciting. So just to kind of delve into this a little bit more, but there's an opportunity to continue to explore and leverage this new science and to help us in our community as one of the avenues that we might want to explore, if you'd like to, and to help us perhaps move the bar or the needle forward. There was a study done by Juan Pascal Leone, and he uses a metaphor, and it's a fantastic metaphor. It really helped me understand this better, so I'll share it. But it's about the snowy hill of plasticity and how our brain forms these neural pathways through repeated experiences and behaviors. So if you stutter when I talk to my father, or I stutter at school, it becomes, oh, when I'm in this situation, when I feel this anxiety, this is my reaction, and it wires together. So the metaphor is that the hill, so if you've been sledding before, the hill itself is, it represents how our brain is functioning, the current neurological connections that we have. Some hills are different. Everyone's brain is a little bit different. The tracks on the hill are based on your unique experiences. So we're all unique in our stutter. And over time, that repetition can make your path very strong. And the hill is, I put a picture up there of the kid going down. If you've sledded before, if you go a few times, the next time you sled down, chances are you're going to follow that same path. It becomes very slick and efficient. Now, if I stutter and I reinforce it, then it becomes this is my neural pathway in this situation. Now, so his work showed how to change that neural connection that you've established through repetition and thought. And you have to put out a roadblock and change those directions. And the roadblocks can help you create new neural pathways, weaken your current neural pathways, and create new ones. It takes a roadblock. Tools are a potential roadblock. Now, what's great in his studies is that it's happened quickly. You can rewire your brain quickly. He did a study where he blindfolded, I think, 30 people for a couple of days, and they mapped the brain. And after that part of the brain that was responsible for vision stopped getting stimulation, they were blindfolded. The neurons in that part of the brain got rewired for sensory touch in just a couple of days. Brain actually changed how it was working and the purpose of those connections in a couple of days, which is remarkable. So it's a double-edged sword. I talked about it because you can reinforce it, make your pathways even faster and worse. You can get progressively worse with stuttering, or you can get better, or over time you can get better and worse because your brain is plastic, always changing. I stuttered for 45 years, so I had a lot of strong, obviously established lifelong neural connections. It took me about 6 weeks of every day. I'm a huge commitment of my time and effort to become a fluent speaker. So, and since then, I've maintained it, and my speech just gets better and better and better as those neural pathways get stronger and stronger. Still a person who stutters. I talk to stutterers. It's scary for me because my brain's like, oh, this is how we talk. It does go both ways. But it took me about 6 weeks. Some can do it faster. I've coached some people that do it in fewer weeks, some longer, and some it doesn't work for. I can explain that as well. But the wiring, which is pretty remarkable, can happen pretty quickly. So I created a protocol, which was documenting what I did and how I was able to rewire your brain. How do you rewire your brain? So the books that I just referenced help me with that. So the protocol is documented, and it's a roadmap which basically helps you starve your current existing stuttering disfluent speech neural pathway. Stop firing on those neurons or on those neural connections through tools, and then create new neural pathways for fluent speech that will replace them. They're not always, they're still there in the background, and they can go back and forth, good days and bad days. But for the most part, you can replace those and improve your speech fluency. Lots of talk about tools. The tools that I use are practical, like others talk about speech therapy. I was told to talk without touching my tongue and my lips. Talk like that. I'm like, I'm not going to talk like that. It sounded too funny. Or singing while I talk. So I teach tools that work for me. And everyone's a little bit different. Everyone's stutter is a little bit different as well. So you have to adjust and understand severe stutterers or just, mild stutterers, types of stutters. So it's not a one size fits all. You got to work with the situation in the mapping that each individual does have. The tools are temporary. So once you have starved those neural pathways by successfully using the tools and you created new ones, you don't need the tools anymore. I've not used a tool yet, but I might. And if I do, I'll call it out to you. But I don't need the tools, but rarely. Sometimes I will, but now versus when I started, I used tools all the time. I mean, every time I spoke, I used a tool. Now I use it just when I need to, because right now it does pop up sometimes. So I have to use a tool. So I teach tools, voice variation, which helps minimize how many blocks we have. Reading aloud, practicing the tools while you read aloud creates those new neural pathways. Lots of reading aloud every single day, and positive self-affirmation, positive statements about my thoughts and attitudes about speech. We have to change those. I never now announce that I'm a stutterer. If I do, it tells my brain you're about to stutter. So I don't do that now. I did before, but I don't now. So there's a full protocol. I won't go into it here in depth, but I teach that protocol, and you're welcome to reach out to me later or to look into it if you'd like. That's why I created the website. I wrote the book. I have sought some academic studies. I don't yet have that. I'd like to demonstrate it in an academic environment. I've had great success with the people that I coach, and I'd like to get it more formally done. So if anyone knows anybody, I've not had success yet. And same with different organizations. I would love to share, and if this can be helpful for others, I would love to collaborate with others and to look into this further for those that are interested. False hope versus false despair. Dr. Deutsch, he talked about this, and I thought it was quite interesting. There's a lot of different avenues that we can take here, and this is just one of them. So a multidisciplinary approach, and there can be some resistance. People who are in a camp, they like their camp, and don't come to my camp, and it's fine. Whatever camp you're in is your camp, and that's where you should be, and that's great. But I'd like to not shut down conversations about possible solutions, new ideas, new science. Let's have the open conversations. Let's not point and say, this camp is good. Let's be inclusive and hear what everyone's doing and their approach. We can all learn. I've learned things just here today, listening to some of the other speakers. We're all learning every single day. But my whole life, I had no hope. Speech therapy, help me manage, control my stutter, accept my stutter. But it was never, we're going to help you speak fluently to stop stuttering. That really wasn't a goal. That's not often a goal, a realistic goal for most people. And that, so I kind of lost hope for most of my life, and it was just, but I'd like to instill that there can be opportunities for people who can explore, and this might be helpful for some. But the mainstream message is acceptance. I looked at the NSA conference taking place in St. Louis in June and last year. Great sessions, informative. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to be part of it. I'm going to learn a ton. But people aren't talking about how to stop stuttering because we don't know that yet, right? The guest speakers are people who have all chosen a path of acceptance. I think there's space for us to have more conversations about this space or other spaces for people that can possibly have some hope. I think, if we dampen hope and say, don't look at other possibilities, that's false despair. There's no hope. And that's not helpful either. So being in one camp and saying, don't even look anywhere else, that could be harmful for people because some people could benefit from other ways of managing and working with. Let me check that box here. For this, the source of the data. Yes. The source, I don't know how to post. So I'll talk with the host. I'll make my presentation available, and I'll provide the list of references. So all of the references, everything I've talked about is documented in the book. I've got a bunch of references, and I can share those. And that's the message. It sounds like we love it. Also, his approach and models also talk about rewiring your brain and has other tools and other ways. But again, it's another, it's in this general area. There are other camps and people have had success. And I know that Lee has had some success there as well. So yes, it is in a similar camp with brain neuroplasticity. This is just my protocol with my tools that I use to coach people. But there are other people. It's not exclusive to me. But as far as I can tell, it's not widely known. It's not being talked about. It's not in this. So I appreciate everyone's time here today to actually think and listen and consider about this as one of the multidisciplinary avenues that we might explore. So, I'm not, so I say, what individuals truly need is not advocacy for specific treatment, but rather a willingness to explore all available options with an open mind and relentless determination. And that was me. I was never satisfied. I kept looking, and I found an avenue that worked for me, and I'm happy that an earlier speaker, Christian, spoke about to do the hard thing, and that really resonated with me as well. This path was a challenging path. It's a hard path, and it's still hard. I still get people saying, "Oh, I don't think you stutter." Okay, one, I earned my stuttering card. I stuttered, 45 years. And it's a bit insulting, and I was and it's also very flattering. It's like, oh, great, they have no idea that I'm a person who stuttered. Um, um, so, it's a hard thing to actually, even coming here, talking in a community, saying, hey, I'm over here and I have some ideas. It's kind of scary, want to be, in a community where we can all work and collaborate and help. I just want to kind of reemphasize the profound significance of the discoveries surrounding brain neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticians like myself help people overcome some of the wiring that they have. I coach people now all over the world, have over 500 members, and have had a really positive success rate in helping people. People say, oh, you're taking advantage, you're charging. I retired from my executive career just now to coach people. So I'm not even breaking even. So I'm losing money now. I don't care. This is my passion. You have to charge something to actually, if I'm going to maintain and I've got expenses, people, oh, it should be for free. Well, I coach people for free as well. People that can't afford, I coach them. If people aren't happy, I give them back their money. I don't blame people. And I have over 150 people that I've coached. 3 people have asked for them. 2 of them I never met with. They signed up, got the protocol, and left. So I've had really positive feedback, which is great. There may be some people on the line. I can't see who's here, but I did invite my community. So if there's anyone out there that would like, as we open it up, Kingston and Shannon and Premier and Bonner and Brooke, and just if you're on the line, I can't see you, but you are welcome to join and speak up and speak about how this approach has helped you. Protocol, it's tangible, it's practical. It worked for me. It won't work for everybody, but you may want to explore it and consider it. The people who I coach have had a great deal of success. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work every single day, every morning when you get up, during the day, in the afternoon, we're reading, we're at night, we're listening to self-affirmations while we sleep, and it's nonstop. So it's a big commitment. You have to do the work. I mean, it's your brain, so I can't do it for you. People hire a coach, get in shape. Like, here's your diet, here's your workout plan. It's a great diet and a great workout plan, but for some people it's great and they, can fully benefit from it. Other people, it doesn't work as well, or they may not, it might not be as well suited for them. But I've had great success with the folks that I have worked with. It's not a cure. So again, I'm still a person who stutters. I still have to work on my neuroplasticity, and I'm still a person. I'll always be a person who stutters. Just fortunately now, my brain is totally freed up now. I had so much mind space by my speech, thinking about my next interview, my next conversation, my next everything, trying to hide my speech. It was exhausting and stressful. Now I don't think about words that much. So getting ready for this presentation, I'm speaking in front of people that I don't know. I didn't think about stuttering. What's the right message? Am I getting this right? So thinking about things that, are more productive for me than just worrying and stressing about my speech. I used to plan my presentations. Every word I'd plan, oh, I can't say that word. How do I talk around that? Did I get direct message? Okay, can't see what that is. So send a direct message, I can't see that. So put it in the chat, I'll try to see that. What I like to do, the very first person I coached, his name is Kingston. He's in a suburb of Toronto. Met him. He was he just graduated, or he's about to graduate high school. And when I met him, he wasn't talking at all, like 5 words a day. Couldn't say his name. His parents took him to speech therapy, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, a medication, pharmacological. They tried everything, and he was getting worse and worse. And it was really a family affair. They would try to help Kingston. They would do games at the house, try to say their name, and just couldn't talk. And when I met him, he wasn't talking. He was just a hard blocker. And then he'd just stop. He wouldn't even try. And then it was interesting when I went through the protocol with him. I said, and he's got to go ahead and read. And his mom said, well, Michael, he can't speak. And I said, well, Mom, if he's by himself in his room, there's a chance he could actually read. And she said, Kingston, can you do that? He goes, mm-hmm. So he went in the room, shut the door, and read. He came out a few minutes later, smiling ear to ear. It's the first time he heard his voice in years. We have this tool, but he didn't know to actually exercise the tool, and that creates new neural pathways. So that's just part of the protocol, and that helped him. He quickly gained his voice. Some takes longer. The young brain, very plastic. And his mom is phenomenal. So, Shannon, if you're on here, a huge shout out. So when I coach younger people, I coach the parent and the child. So the parent is there every day as a coach, reinforcing the work every day. So working with Shannon, we changed Kingston's life. It's phenomenal. That's why I do this, because I empathize and love to help people where possible. Kingston did a few things, and I'd like to share. It's a 1-minute video. So this is while we're training. This is just a few weeks after we started. And he picked the poem, It Couldn't Be Done, which he picked for reason. He did another presentation about brain neuroplasticity, explained how he rewired his brain. And he was 8, just unbelievable. I'm going to try to play this and see if it works. Let me just make sure I'm volume, share sound. I'm going to hit play. If you can't hear it, someone would just chat and let me know.
Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he with the chalk replied that maybe it could, but he'd be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a bit of a grin on his face. If he worried he had hit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, oh, you'll never do that, at least no one has ever done it. But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and first thing we knew, he had begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quitted, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that await to assail you. But just
Michael, sorry to interrupt, but if you wouldn't mind pausing that, I just need to ask how much time do you need?
Well, there was about 10 seconds left of the video, and that was it. So,
okay. So the reason for my question is the next speaker has not shown up yet. If you need an extra 5 or 10 minutes,
okay. Tom, thank you for that. So let me finish the video, and I'll go to an Ask Me Anything session and open it up and just hold the floor for 30 seconds or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, and you just let me know, and then we'll.
Thank you.
We'll close down from there. So thank you
for the
update.
All right.
Okay. All right. So just back to Kingston there, finishing up his inspiration.
He couldn't, but he'd be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a bit of a grin on his face. If he worried he had hit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, oh, you'll never do that, at least no one has ever done it. But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and first thing we knew, he had begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quitted, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that await to assail you. But just buckle right in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start in to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. You know.
All right, so that was Kingston. And I was just going to open it up, and we have perhaps a short time or maybe a few minutes to ask me anything. So there's been some things in the chat, if there's anything there that folks want to ask or to add. No stupid questions or challenges. I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate the open mind and consideration of everyone here. If you don't have a question here or you think of it later, you can email me, Michael at Stuttermind, or go to the website for more information, and I'll work with Tom to figure out how I post this and the references for the data as well. All the references are in the book, but I realize if you don't buy the book, you don't get the references. So I'll add that to the presentation, and we'll make that available.